last year June. Na me hot cake mpa say me too. If you ever me want tea. My pima scan is mbano. I was expecting scaby but mbano. Till me feel my banner me want to be say me could dinner me say mo kan GTV. Say I buy the policy be about mo twa dan man. Na me dey baff. Ejuma na me be say colleague my TV be on friend national renters. What tell us what? Nti enko bon hwe na use company wife na e bo na enya na ye follow. But then me two events. Events cheche bibia kama say enko pa enya mambra. Ti e ba back ni me share sister Rose. And che I think say within 5 days pepe na bibia go to me people me nyama na mom na mo ko tua.
Madam Fubina or catch me about it. Nam ye di rent ho nkomo. No si o waye bi. Enti no se me hia se me rent na so na se mpese me ye dia obetwe me amama maye. E no share link no ma me. E na me call online na me ye bibia. Me call portal no so. E na me information na mo request ye nyina. Omo request me pay slips. Ene me pay slips ene me bank statement. Oh, key in we na edana unya call. Ese what start BBC ye nti no. O pese o toaswa na o catch say o pese o toaswa. Na fe o mankasa me frɛ madam fo no. Nti ono na no as all guide me kakra mama de.
Magdalene was heavy laden, but the simple referral from her friend to the scheme's website was just enough to give her rest.
Me catch say me nya dan ne deda. E no mo ne efiera no omo ni fiera ne kasaye. No mo sikane ne ma no omo tuama fiera no. First no as I say me copy scan na me de be but we dey boa me nti month bia na metua linka ba ko na nka just me call bank me call loan na bibisa de bebe rent time frame omudi 2 years scan na very short within 3 days na scan ba nka bank loan dia say ke be take some time answer na aba no sa no so save you e dan bi wo no ma obenya obeba say o ba betua no na yesi obi aba beje so we dey 3 days pepe na me di fiera and izika ma no na my okay 2 years near 16,000 I think 800 or so ntisa no mutua ma me no and no momote no every month no aboa me pa you how be famous.
The most recent population and housing census data tells us that only 5% of Ghanaians today can on their own put up housing. Another 60% will require some sort of government intervention before they can get access to housing. And for the outstanding 35%, they would even require some sort of more direct support through social housing before they can get shelter. So the market is heavily lopsided on the demand side when there's very limited supply. In fact, today's housing deficit is somewhere between 1.8 to 2 million units. Yet at the same time, about 12% of properties that you see around are unoccupied because they are very high-end properties when there are millions of people who are looking for property. So the few people who have property take advantage of tenants.
A group of researchers in a study done on Ghana's housing and health titled The Psychological Impact of Renting a Home in Ghana revealed that the impact of rental obligations such as raising the lump sum payment, that is, advance rent in particular, not only lead to deteriorating psychological health problems, but also considered as a silent killer in the general population.
You can tell that this problem existed a very long time ago. We had shortage of affordable housing and multi-year rent some 60 years ago.
Sebi, we are Jumakra and Ghana yedi, Yama Koso, ye 12,000 ko hand to mouth. We're going to mean service 2 years munya another every 8,000 and 7,000 from currency then be. Said I was a free education. A state said about free. we do more GS can be, but them have a dry flexible. It will continue to be flexible. For a time, I will be as many vision to make see in the future. Because now we pay amount of money 10,000, 8,000 quarantine. Was have no best at it. A palace can be for another 1 year.
Persons like John Mensah is the reason government came up with this other social intervention program.
The National Rental Assistance Scheme is basically taking a position between the landlords and the tenants. You know, the landlord is sticking by his or her demands, you know, the 2 years or 1 year rent advance. The tenants, on the other hand, like you and I, we want to be able to pay our rent in monthly, because rent in most other places is paid monthly. We pay your rent to the landlord, and each month you pay back to the scheme, either through your employer deduction or through your bank, or send it in by mobile money. The application process is no more difficult than a simple job application form. Your name, your address, and then you provide your identification. We need to know who you are. You provide your pay slips if your employer gives pay slips, and then you provide 3 months of your bank statements to show that indeed you are working and you are capable of paying back the scheme, because this is not free. You need to pay it back.
For a young man or woman coming out of school or wherever trying to rent a place, you haven't even worked for 6 months, that you are supposed to provide rental advance for 2 years or 3 years, and where are you going to get that money from? So this is what was exercising our minds in terms of how do you solve this problem? How do you bridge this gap between the person who wants to rent and the landlord?
It's a critical component of normalizing renting in Ghana.
Housing is a right. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, for example, food, clothing, shelter, it is one of the most basic needs. It is a right that people must have access to. Now, the National Rental Assistance Scheme supports our citizens who are therefore looking to access housing by making available that initial outlay so that they can make an offer to the landlord of about a year, in this case, and then they can service it on a monthly basis. And what that does is that it gives them access to that right of housing, while they can then at their own pace service it on a gradual basis.
It was a campaign promise by the New Patriotic Party to facilitate accessibility and affordability of safe, secure, and decent rental accommodation, and ultimately protect these targeted people from the unfair burden of multi-year rent advance payments.
It tells you that you are very serious about the issue, that you consider it very important, and you want to make a promise to the people that if you are elected, you will deliver on this. And I think this was one of our 2020 manifesto promises that we made. And by the way, I think that we have fulfilled the promise, and the scheme is working.
The NPP is a very ambitious party, and you will find it through some of the very audacious promises that we make. And we don't just make those promises, we work hard towards achieving those promises. When this promise was made, you recall that it was one of the promises that was mocked. And people came up with this, it's not possible, you can't do it, you can't achieve it. But our leadership has always believed that even the most difficult things are possible to achieve. And you will find that this and many of our promises we were able to achieve as well.
This timely, people-centered public program has, for the past year since inception, absorbed so much pressure from Ghanaians.
Last year, June, hot cake, I said me too. If you ever me want tea, my pima scanning some one. I was expecting scary, but I'm one. Till my first my banner may want to be said because the dinner meeting some more can GTV. So I bind the policy be about more pure diamond. And I made the bath. A June maybe some colleague my TV don't with national renters. What tell us what? In the uncle Bonshane, you used to company wife and your born in and you follow. but then me 2 Evans. Evans cheche bibia kama se enkopa yema mbra. Tie ba back in Mbeshia sister Rose. And che I think say within 5 days pepe no. Bibia go to me people yema na mom na mokotua.
As we speak, we've held slightly under 2,000 people on the scheme. And the good thing is that everybody pays. It's very easy to apply. Just go to our website, www.nras.gov.gh.
Magdalene Osei-Bonsu is one other beneficiary in Kumasi, and she works with a Cocoa Clinic. Magdalene is one of the many Ghanaians who suffer psychological distress and forgo a lot of necessities just to save to pay 2 years advance rent.
Madam Fubina or catch me about it. Nam ye di rent home komo. No so why be? Inti no se me here se me rent na so na se mpese me ye dia obetre me amama maye. And no share link no mama. And I me call online nam. Me bibia me call portal no so and me information or more request nyina or more request me pay slips and me pay slips and me bank statement oh key in we na edana unya call ese what start bibi say ye ntino o pese o toaswa na o catch se o pese o toaswa na fe omo ankasa me frɛ madam fo no nti ono na no aso guide me nkakra ma me de.
Magdalene was heavy laden, but the simple referral from her friend to the scheme's website was just enough to give her rest.
Me catch rom se menya dan ne deda ena omo ne efiera no omo ne fiera ne kasaye no mu sikane ne ma no umutua ma afiera no first no esese me copy scan na me de be but we dey boa me nti month bia na metua linka ba ko na nka je se me call bank me call loan na bibisa de bebe rent time frame omo di 2 years scan na very short within 3 days na scan ba nka bank loan dia say ke be take some time ansana aba no sa no so save you e dan bi wo no ma obenya obeba say o ba betua no na yesi obi aba beje so we dey 3 days pepe na me di fiera anizika ma no na my okay 2 years na 16,000 I think 800 or so sa no mutua ma me no e no momote no every month no
Initially, many people thought that it was just a promise, that it wouldn't come into being, right? And that, this would just disappear, But we worked at it and we implemented it. And so for the beneficiaries, for many of them, it's a dream come true. They've been able to rent places which they would otherwise have been unable to rent. And so it's very heartwarming for me that the scheme that our government has implemented is helping many people.
When the scheme was launched in 2023, government committed 30 million Ghana cedis towards its initial implementation, and it was to start from 6 regions.
The rent control, who is part of the Ministry of Works and Housing, gave us a list of locations that had the most pressing rental issues. And so they selected Accra, Kumasi, Takoradi, Techiman, Tamale, and Koforidua for us to start with.
For John Mensah, it is his second time running to the scheme for urgent support since he joined.
8 months munia minomu ma bibisa sia endra aswasa koye relocation as a man. We want to say company na stay say we emfaso. She said we no wa broche say e tua bibi ma ye stay ye emfaso wo mu a e be boa me enu am ye ho chi en say tumi anya beneficiary of this. Me ye adwuma de baska no Yama be basa on say last yama be basa change man nko iska sem na e over time e sebe kan no se na over time bi they are can hand to mouth na me wife so fa no sama pressure nti we be bom de e bo me pa iska sem de we mu ni waden class sem de ni be
every document the scheme managers requested from John was supplied and their verification qualified him to receive assistance. As Rosemary Osei-Jemfi explains, due diligence is done on every document before they commit.
When somebody applies, we go to the person's portal, we check if the person's all the documents we need, which is the person's current 3 months payslip, the current 3 months bank statement, and the Ghana card are all complete. And if the person doesn't have too many loans, the person is good to go. After the person has applied, gone through all the process, we book them for field work. When we go for the field work, the landlords will be signing an agreement with us, which is the tenancy agreement, and we have an agreement to which the landlord and the applicant will both sign with us.
John has been honest to the scheme. He has vowed never to default in paying his monthly returns to the scheme.
Online.
This allows any beneficiary who qualifies to never ever pay rent advance again.
From the Ashanti region, we continue to the Bono East regional capital, Techiman. The National Rent Assistance Scheme is fully operational here too, and residents are really enjoying it.
For Techiman is over 160, more than 160. For approving, we are able to approve like 20, but for the payment, every week we're able to pay like no less than 10 per week.
Here in Techiman, we found one of the many beneficiaries. He is Cosmos Ankuma Yeboah. Yes, he works and earns income, but saving towards 2 years rent advance payment was certainly a challenge. The National Rental Assistance Scheme became his life wire.
Water bill, light bill, obeti nkakra no bewie no na asa fa me to ho na obeboaboa no na bia 2 years 3 years down rent no edin enti meti omon kasa na sika boom prekopa menya nsa no de friends steps no anamontu no me ankasa mekeka me ho se be ya me nsa be so muntem enti eboa me pa ma me na me ni sika eda ho se me kofa na prekopa ya bitu ya dan ka. But through rent assistance scheme, no.
For Cosmos, the fact that he can now save money to solve some other important permanent pressing needs is enough for him. He is indeed delivered.
A year how be a free so say, Sabri ame wo ho ame ba ebe ko school and baby school fees ananka. Meboaboa no na nka ebia ye bepam abofra na mo na bafie na commit me papa me father ni ho ne ade no eno no timi ma me save that sika no e ma abofra no ye bi school pay kenkran na okwa na ni school fees den ekura no nti sa how no etimi aye den eye free me so.
The initiative appears too good to be true.
When we hear of something that is new, that has never been done, because of the environment and the numerous scandalous activities in the country, your first reaction is that this is too good to be true, that it must be a scam, right? But this is not a scam. I mean, I've never seen any scam where you use your money to pay for something for somebody else.
Scheme way there. They have me do interest with guys be doing say any possible. It be a fraud because me enter me enter first. Na me enter first as somebody mechi. To me enter first, me guy back follow me year 2. Eso CDN. Most of guys abe join here and na me me no untie adene so CD my wage more.
For me, it's not shocking. Because many of the things I've tried to do in this country since I have the privilege to serve are things that, are not usually being done in the system. I believe in possibilities. I don't fear taking on things that haven't been done. So whenever I come up with an idea, there's a whole lot of skepticism. They even say, oh, he's lying. That doesn't shock me that people, were shocked and didn't think it would work and all of that. I've come to realize that anything I say, because those things haven't really been done, people can be very skeptical, about it. But usually, time proves me right.
Dr. Bawumia is somebody who is focused on finding solutions to challenges. If you find him in the midst of a conversation and you find other people lamenting about problems, he's the one who is quickly getting to the end of the conversation that, okay, so how do we fix it? How do we solve it? How do we introduce some modern ways of cutting through the challenges so that we can resolve it? This is one initiative that is helping us to make a dent in the housing market, particularly when it comes to the relationship between landlords and tenants and smoothing that curve. But beyond this, there are quite a number of other initiatives that we are looking at in the housing space. He's also keen on us expanding our already existent affordable housing program by not just looking at government bringing money to build it, but how do we attract the private sector and make it worth their while to bring affordable technology, speedy work, and to deliver affordable housing at a price point that makes sense to the market. So when Dr. Bawumia becomes president, you will see some oomph in rural housing and affordable housing, and also some improvement in the regulation of the housing sector using a lot of these digital tools that he's been speaking about.
The National Rental Assistance Scheme is giving landlords the peace of mind to continue renting their homes out. Michael Barr Jenkins is Cosmos's landlord. He walks us through how, without sweat, he found full payment of Cosmos's 2 years rent advance in his bank account.
No Ghana card number, and my account number. No tears can to me my account more. I just say I buy my personal property and then build on that. Then they may year man. Until I trust on the rent for no, Obitrian Kakra more. Ubu ha, the time Sokra now chair. Best 6 months to cry, not just say. Cobra, and now watching an old 2.5 matches is cano. The opposite would be no crano into me. But we need the million bulk. Into the amendment person with the Abiano. The timid renovation will be her come up.
Mr. Jenkins can't believe the era where landlords had to chase their tenants for their rent is about becoming a thing of the past.
As leaders, this is really what you are charged to do. You are charged to try to make life easier and better. And so everything that I do, I try to do, is in that direction. You have a problem. People, when the electricity goes off and you have to go to the ECG to buy your electricity unit. In the middle of the night, you can't. How do we make it easier? Digitalize the process so you can sit at home and buy electricity, even from abroad, and buy electricity. You make life easier. You renew your national health insurance, even from your home. You make life easier. You can send money to any telco or a bank account, which you couldn't do before. Mobile money interoperability, you bring it. You make life easier. You see what I mean? So national rent assistance, the free SHS, free TVET, all of these things makes life easier for Ghanaians. Before, our mothers struggled so hard to get these identities, even just a birth certificate. But now on your mobile phone, within minutes, they will tell you this is your child's birth certificate number, this is your child's Ghana card number. It makes life easier.
Anybody who is part of the scheme now will never ever have to pay rent advance again. That is what we are targeting. Number 2, how much does it cost? Any money that the government has put in now, they have made a profit. Imagine if government made profits in all its interventions. We would be in a far better place, right? So it doesn't cost the government any money. And is it sustainable? And that too is yes, because when we set a limit, assuming that the government has says that let's cap it at 6,000 people, 6,000 beneficiaries. As the money revolves, it gets to a point where the government doesn't have to put in any more money. It becomes self-sustainable.
Everything is becoming possible in Ghana now, and that is the sign most Ghanaians are looking for.
Very, very, very good. Especially as workers no be Ohio na honchirenti omuntimintia. You be also no rent allowance no advance no ya de obetumatua. Kamransi be 6 months do but na one be just 6 months. No kwa 2 years ya no be aka. Ndi mrabia amenhihye bia abanu de aba bisa beboa omo high die tenants no.
Rent assistance scheme sa program no anase dwumadie no na ba ete ase enti me manya so mfa so enti me kanfo ama obi bia so se wa ohia bibisa no utu anamo ekọ mo office ho no mo transe wo so nsa beka na ya sese wonsa eka efiri omo
school we dey go mpa ese aban no oba mana stay
ade ese so mo to aso ebeboa yeah sebe ye ntimi nya sika no emfanye sebe nya sika no da ho se de enti omo boa ye na ye de tua na bosome bia wo mo tete ye ya eno ye beta ebeboa enti omo nto aso.
This joy cannot be quantified, and a visionary leader made it happen.
When Dr. Bawumia becomes president, I know one of the things that he's keen on us pushing is rural housing. You go to many of our villages today and you see the old Atakpame structures poorly laid out there. Sometimes it's difficult to even maneuver between buildings. One of the things he's looking at is how to redevelop some of these rural areas through the rural housing scheme by using public sector workers as the fulcrum, the initial market, around which little settlements using local rural housing technology to build settlements for them. And that would signal the local community about the new ways of developing settlements in the using local technology. And we expect that when that is successful, it will begin to evolve and redefine how our rural areas look like.
It works and it's gone very well. So I'm going to very significantly, by the grace of God, if I am elected, I'm going to very significantly increase the resources that we are putting into the National Rental Assistance Scheme, because it can help so many people, many people in the area of the rent space without really losing the money. You help and it becomes a revolving fund. And so I am expecting a very significant injection of funds into the rental assistance scheme.
It is possible! For the Vice President, impossibility is out of the question now.
That is how we should do it, because once you can conceive it, you work hard at finding how to achieve it, right? And that is what we should do. And if you want to transform a country, you have to move away from what you have been doing, because what you have been doing is what got you into where you are. So if you want to change it, you have to do something different. You have to think outside the box, do things you haven't done before, change the whole formula and bring in new things. And that is what I keep trying to do. Challenge people, do things that think are impossible, prove them wrong. And that is what we have been doing. And so I've been very happy with the progress we've made on the National Rental Assistance Scheme. Just so happy that we've been able to help so many people. And then the going forward, we're going to do more.
With God, or the Almighty Allah in the picture, it is possible. And with Alhaji Dr. Bawumia ready to lead the charge, there is hope, and all impossibilities will succumb to the authority of possibilities. It is so very much possible.